What is your full birth name?
Mark Louis Amorino.
And Mark, were you named after anyone?
My middle name's after my grandfather.
And when and where were you born?
I was born here in Selma.
And when did your family immigrate to the United States from both your mom and your dad's side?
The one side in that went to Hawaii would have been in the 1880s, and then here in the U.S. probably around 1910.
And you, in contact with your family, with your parents, your grandparents, did they ever tell you why they left the Azores? What was the major reason?
Opportunity.
And so they settled in Hawaii. Do you know the particular reason why they went to Hawaii?
That worker program where they recruited to work, I think it was in the pineapples, and that they would work for a year and then receive maybe an acre of land.
And did they ever tell you, from both sides, the ones that went to Hawaii and the ones that came to California, how the adjustment period was? How was it for them, to get acquainted and adapted to a new land?
I have more of the history from the Silvera side of my family. They came from the East Coast, from the Peak, and the cultural, very difficult to blend in, not knowing English. The food, my grandfather nearly starved to death because he didn't recognize the food, and he was finicky eater. So yeah, I would think it was hard to adjust, and I believe that's why the communities were formed. The cultural bond and the familiarity, people that were like them, spoke their language. I think that was a big reason why.
When you were being raised here in California, and your parents are also from here, were you raised with a strong presence of the Portuguese in your family?
Yes.
What kind of things did they have? Was it basically, did they speak Portuguese, or was it language? Was it culture? Was it the foods? What was the Portuguese part that you can identify today?
The language, the lodges, the UPPC, the hall. My grandfather was a president here in the 40s. So they've always been associated with the community here in Selma.
Did they teach you Portuguese, or?
No. When my parents were in grade school, the teachers discouraged that being spoken in the home because the children were having a difficult time learning English. So they stopped speaking Portuguese, and we never picked it up.
But your parents spoke it themselves?
When they were young,
Uh-huh.
and my mother later in life, but it's all gone now.
Now that you're older, the Portuguese-American traditions and the customs, what do you try to preserve?
Well, family, we have a connection to the hall because that's our culture, and like David said, that's what we do once a year. We come here, we donate our time to preserve this tradition.
To you, what is the festa? What does the festa mean to you, and what is the festa?
The festa was parades and music and the food, and of course the dancing and the marching. But as a young man, it was mostly the food.
Were you involved in the festas as a young person? Did your family get you involved?
Not in the festa, but in the parades. And then as I got older, I decided that I would offer my assistance, and I came down here and started working with David maybe about 25 years ago.
So about 25 years ago, you began to get involved in helping in the kitchen. And how did that transition into now being the person that prepares the supper? So tell me a little bit about your first involvement.
Well, it's a lot of work, and David touched on some things, but we have 10 very large pots, 55, 60-gallon pots, 300 pounds of meat in each pot, and it's very hot, and you start prepping those pots at 7 in the evening, and when we used to cook straight through, well, we light the pots at 9, it takes 9 hours to cook, And then we used to serve what David called the routes for the donations before the festa. So it was nonstop from Saturday at 7 all the way till serving for the takeout and then getting ready to serve the festa. And then we had an early meal around 11, and then we had the full meal, and then we have the evening meal. So it's a very extensive process, not to ruin all the food.
Sure. And so these suppers that you serve, the two meals at midday and then the one meal in the evening, these are all made throughout the night before.
All made at the same time. And the heat is held in those pots for 10 hours at a serving temperature. They're sealed with about 4 or 5 inches of grease. And we skim the pots before we serve.
Okay.
So you don't want grease in your sopas.
Sure. And so no grease, it's all healthy food.
Exactly.
And when you begin to prepare the meal, and the meats, we talked about that, but the meats for the sopas, how does a chef know exactly how much meat to put in each pot, and is there a certain cut that you prefer over another?
It's what the pot will hold. We have found that to get the right ratios with the size of the pot that we have, it takes approximately the 300 pounds. We like to get shank and then chuck roll. But when I started helping David, they were still butchering the cows at the locker in Armona. So it was, like David said, the whole cow, all the cuts. And now we're buying it from a meat company, and we're asking for so many pounds of shank, about 1/3 shank and about 2/3 of the boneless. We need the shank for the flavor, for the marrow. And but it's not the fancy cuts of the cow.
And so for those people who don't know what sopas are, basically, what are the 3 or 4 major ingredients other than the spice that you put in there?
Right.
The meat?
Right. It really is a simple food. It's the meat, the broth, the cabbage, and the bread. And the people in this area have a very strong flavor for cabbage. We cannot quite cook. We're up to 2 cases of cabbage, and we have people asking for more cabbage. They like the cabbage. The cabbage cooks, and it soaks in those juices and those spices, and it takes on a very, very, well, good, delicious flavor when people eat the whole head of cabbage themselves.
What does it mean to you to have this role now of the chef of cooking the sopas for the festa here in Selma?
We just try to carry on the tradition. Like David said, he and Frank Cardoza worked up a recipe. They scaled it up as the pots became larger in size. So we have what we call our Selma recipe. And when we're finished cooking and we have our first pan, if it tastes like Selma, then we're done our job. We don't try to get fancy. We try to do it the same way. The people that come here, they can expect the same year after year after year.
And what to you would be the same festa without sopas? Would the festa be a festa without sopas?
Not in the valley. I think in other parts of California they do other meals, but this is what we do in the Central Valley, the coast.
Do you see the younger generation being involved and wanting to be eventually the chef when you no longer want to do it?
I don't. I think as we become more American, I'm the 3rd generation. My first generation was born in the Azores of Portugal. My parents were born in America. I'm born in America. By the 3rd generation, I see loss of interest, and beyond that, so many things to do. Soccer and dance and sports.
So how do you see, in your perspective, how do you see the festas 15, 20 years from now?
Hard to say. There's still a core of people that I see that want to practice the tradition, but I think if you asked Tisha, and perhaps you did, the membership in the hall is very low compared to where it used to be. The involvement is much less. So I don't know.
Have you ever had the opportunity to go back to where your parents came from?
No, I haven't.
Is that something that you might want to do someday?
It would be interesting. I would enjoy it.
And what does it mean to you to be Portuguese American?
Well, we were raised up to be proud of our heritage. The Portuguese people were discriminated against, called names, ridiculed, and so the sense of pride was instilled in us. Be proud of who we are, be proud of our culture.
Is there anything else that I didn't cover that you'd like to?
No, I think you asked very good questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Appreciate your
Denise.
time. Thank you.